Listen, y'all. I say this often. I go back to these interviews for myself. I'm gonna go back to this one quite a few times because I need to listen to this again and again. I mean, and thankfully, we went to a company trip, and I think now that I'm a little bit older, I won't say my age. I'm a little bit older now, so I feel very, very more. I feel a lot more comfortable in my skin. And so, like, even when I saw the CEO for the first time, like, hey, they talking about stuff over there. I'm safe with you, right? And he laughed, right? I just because that's who I am. I'm gonna make the joke or whatever the case may be. You
Yeah.
have to find yourself. You have to
Yeah.
find who you are, man. I'm trying to collect myself. I don't do this. I don't even write down things many times when I have these interviews. I don't write down stuff because I'm like, Mom, this is amazing. I'm like, my mind is going. You
But
got to
that's a
talk about it.
recruiter's job. That's a
Yeah.
recruiter's job. I tell people all the time, the recruiter is your advocate. So one,
Mm,
you better the recruiter need to be your best friend. That's
hmm
that's number one. The recruiter is your advocate when you cannot be in the room to speak on your own behalf.
Yeah.
So allow me as your recruiter to be your advocate. And if any person has an issue with the recruiter being the advocate, then they have an issue with the partnership that the recruiter is supposed to actually do.
Mm,
So I've been taught, like I've been trained from my mentor, not anybody else, from my mentor. I've been trained to be the advocate, to be the person who, when you are in the room, you need to open your mouth. If you don't open your
mm,
mouth, you acquiesce to everything that people say. So
mm.
I am a firm believer in understanding that there are times when my opinion is not the popular opinion, and that's totally fine.
Mm.
You also,
Yeah,
but you gonna respect what I say.
that's right. That's right. Wow. I was gonna. You know what? I heard you say it a couple of times here. I'm thinking like, yeah, she's from Jersey because I live in Jersey now
And
too. Brick City, stand up because she has that strength right there. She's Jersey strong. Can you talk about growing up in Jersey and how that made you who you are today?
Yeah, so in Jersey, Philly area, we like to say John, right? Everything is a
Oh,
John. JAWN. Everything is a John.
that's
So
right.
John is a noun. It describes a person, place,
Anything.
or a thing. Let y'all know. So I absolutely loved growing up in Jersey, but I think once I hit 17, senior in high school, I started to realize again, being aware of my surroundings and being observant, I started to learn that I got tired of seeing the same thing every day.
Hmm.
So I absolutely loved, like my childhood was great. I loved growing up in Jersey. I loved the city life when I realized that by the time I got older, I got tired of the city and wanted to go to the suburbs. But Jersey was cool. Like it was cool being able to catch the bus to the mall, or it was cool to be able to take the train over the bridge to go to the gallery or Market Street in Philly, or it was cool to be able to have all four seasons and be have blizzards and have snow days. And what people in the South don't understand is that when we have snow days, we have snow days. Like you can't like go nowhere. But it's very, very much like popular to shovel yourself out and go to work if you can do so.
You have
Here, when
to.
in North Carolina, the threat of ice, everything shuts down, which I think is hilarious.
Yeah.
But growing up in Jersey was cool. It's very much taught me how to be strong. But it also taught me that perception can very much be a liar of how you actually are. Because
Mm.
when I came down here for college, apparently I had this very stank face that everybody says, I thought you was mean, or I thought you was a B word. Like I got that a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm actually very nice. But I didn't understand how my face looked. Being a northerner, I didn't understand like I just looked like that.
Hmm.
So being in North Carolina for a certain amount of years, and then some now visiting home, I'll be like, y'all mean. Like, why do y'all got an attitude? Like, what is wrong with y'all? So I've now very much adopted that Southern hospitality. I do still have very much Jersey in me though. Like if I'm with a group of people, even if it's just me and my husband and we walking down the street, if somebody speak, he'll speak back. And in my mind, I spoke back, but I ain't say nothing. So I have this hard like I'm trying to push myself out of it, and I've been trying to push myself out of it since 2007. But this whole thing of speaking to people that you don't know, that is very much a Jersey, Philly, like up north, New York, up north type thing. So I'm still trying to get out of speaking to people that I don't know. I'm still working on it. But that's probably the big difference. But I loved growing up in Jersey. I loved um, everything about growing up in Jersey. And then when I came down south, it was cool to one be very much in the country and very much a culture shock, but then also experience life from a different aspect and
Mm.
from different walks of life.
Mm. You know, what's so funny. I'm originally from, and I got, we always say like this. I'm from Brooklyn, New York. We act like it's a whole different country, but I'm originally from Brooklyn. And one of the things I find myself, I mean, I love New Jersey because it was great for my family. We grew out of the space in New York. It's just crazy expensive. But one of the things I find myself doing is when I'm walking with people, I end up speed walking and not walking normally. And I'm like, oh, I got to remind myself I'm not slow down, enjoy
Yeah.
the scenery. So it's amazing how our background and where we come from can really shape who we are. And so that leads me to something else that you said. I thought that's really, really important for people to hear. And if you miss anything, this is gonna be like, I think this is gonna be the thing. The recruiter
Mhm.
is your advocate. Can you talk about the type of relationship that you want as a employee to have with the recruiter for whoever the company you're looking to be hired to?
Yeah, sure. So I always tell people that before you get in contact with a recruiter, understand first that our inboxes are absolutely full between our emails and our DMs on all types of social media platforms. So if you don't get a response in a quick manner or within the first couple days or even a week, give us grace. You may have to follow up because we probably didn't see it because there are plenty of people that in my inbox that I did not see. I will always of the position that when you reach out to a recruiter, please don't expect a recruiter to do research for you. And you have to know the difference between an agency or a staffing recruiter and an in-house recruiter. So I am an in-house recruiter. I have never been a staffing recruiter. So in-house recruiters will want you to do the research for the company that they currently work for and then tell them kind of the preparation that you've done already to then try to either get a referral from them or see if they can help you any further. Staffing recruiters will probably do a lot of the work for you. And I've never been a staffing recruiter, so any staffing recruiter that see this, I'm sorry if I'm wrong. But there are times when staffing recruiters will do a little bit more work because I've heard that based on their hire, it could then be like commission and pay and all of that. In-house recruiters, it of course the hires work for us and all of that, but we don't. It's not necessarily commission based. So there are times when a staffing recruiter may work at a different level of urgency as an in-house recruiter. I will say that you definitely have to know the difference and you definitely have to do the research on the company that the recruiter works for. Also, do your research on the actual recruiter themselves. And what I mean by that is this. I have had people in my inbox ask me, "What do you recruit for?" And it's literally
Mm, right
right
there.
next to me. It's literally it would literally be right next to my name, and I promise I'm not hiding it. So like, or it was one time when I said, okay, I was like, babe, I'm gonna change my name on LinkedIn. So I was like, I put Chenae Software Engineer PM's Erkerd, right?
I
I
saw
put it
that.
as my middle name just to see like if people would look. And I still got the, well, what do you recruit for? And I'm like, dog, like you ain't see it. It's in my name. Like, so I would say
Funny.
definitely do your research on some of the things that we actually recruit for because it is most of the time on our profiles. If it's not on our profile, it's okay to say, I looked on your profile and I'm not sure what positions you recruit for, but I was wondering if this position is assigned to you, if you have any information. That brings me to my DM template. I've created a DM template specifically because I kept getting DMs around like ill-prepared messages and DMs that kind of gave me the inclination that you did nothing. So I had one of my clients reach out to me and she emailed me. She said, Chenae, I want to send this DM to this recruiter, but I'm not sure how to word it. Do you mind giving me some help? I said, sure. So I started writing the DM back to her in an email. And I was like, this could be a template. I wonder if other people could use it. And I just posted it. And when I posted it, I had so many people like, oh my gosh, this is really helpful. And all it's saying is, here's my name is this. I applied for this position with this company. I understand that you may not be attached to the role, and I completely understand that confidentiality is a thing. But if you can share my LinkedIn profile with the person that is assigned to this role, if you're not, I would really appreciate it. The reason why it's important to ask for your LinkedIn profile link to be shared is because with recruiters like me, I'm still trying to figure out how to word certain things. Instead of saying I don't particularly care for, because that sounds real rude. I prefer you to actually ask me to attach your resume than to just attach your resume. Reason for that is because if I see it, then it automatically makes me feel like I'm obligated to actually look at your resume when technically I'm not. And if I don't look at it, I don't want you to think I'm ignoring you, or you saw me see the message and I just decided not to. Like, it's a really uncomfortable situation. I always tell people, before you attach your resume, ask the recruiter or the person that you're messaging, can you attach your resume? Give them at least a chance to say yes or no. If they say yes, of course, attach the resume. If they decide to say no, ask them, well, do you mind if I give you my LinkedIn profile so you can share this with somebody that you may know who may be hiring or who may be attached to the position that I'm recruiting for? The reason why sharing your LinkedIn profile versus sharing your resume is important is because your resume has personal identifiable information on it that if it gets to the wrong hands after you've attached it, then that person or the company that person works for is responsible for your information getting into the wrong hands of someone else. So your LinkedIn profile is public information. So that is just public. So it's easier for us to share the profile, which is why I always say, please make sure your LinkedIns are updated, because hiring managers will look at your LinkedIns before the recruiters even find you. So if your LinkedIn profile is public, we don't have to have the possibility of liability from sharing your resume. So your resume has your email, personal information, your name, personal information, your phone number, personal information, right? We don't want those things to get into the wrong hands of anyone. So it's safer to use your LinkedIn profile. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people get upset when we say keep your LinkedIn updated. Well, why not my resume? It's to protect your information. That's why. So I always tell people, if your LinkedIn acts like a floating resume, it's just easier to take that link from the URL and pass it on to the next person. And if it's updated, you won't have an issue if people look at your profile or whatever. So it's just easier. So I would say to follow the instructions of the recruiter whenever you are trying to build relationship with the recruiter, so that then they can then refer you to other positions that they may not even be over. They may refer you to their peer friend recruiters who may be recruiting for other positions within that company or other companies in general. So you just want to follow the instructions of the recruiter to make it easier on the recruiter. And although you may not agree with it, for me, for example, I can only speak for myself. For me, it's just easier if I tell you to do something and do it a certain way, so it makes it easier on me to then share your information with the necessary party. You on mute.
That's how excited I am. I'm just like, I had the kids jumping up the stairs. I had to mute myself, but I'm like, man. So you're saying that your LinkedIn profile should be identical to your resume minus the personal information. You're saying?
Yeah. So for example, like if you decide to put your email on your LinkedIn, like that's what you decide to do, but LinkedIn itself, the platform is public. So if you start getting spam phone calls and emails, that's because you decided to put your stuff on your LinkedIn. Now, if you got that stuff from your resume and you share your resume with someone in a company and that resume somewhere circulated and got into the wrong hands, that company is liable for your personal information being stolen or whatever. If you put your personal information on a platform, a public platform, then that is on you. So the company is always going to want to make sure they're protected.
Yeah.
So you just and we always want to make sure you're protected as a candidate.
Yeah.
So we prefer to use your LinkedIn profile link opposed to your actual resume, because your resume is in the applicant tracking system anyway.
Mm.
So we can pull your resume from a secure space versus sharing it on our emails or in our like chats and stuff.
Mm. Real quickly, because this is so good, but my time is coming short. I want to definitely get this in there because I know people are going to ask me this. Do's and don'ts on the interviews. What would be your bullet points for that?
Yeah. Never say I don't know to a question ever.
Mm.
Make up something on the spot if you have to. Ever. Because the thing is, if you can't make up something on the spot, it's testing your quickness and you being able to make very quick decisions. And at times you're going to be on the job where you have to make very quick decisions. If you can't do that in the interview, then the supervisor's not going to think you'll be able to do that on the actual job when the time comes. So
Good
I would
point.
always say, make sure you don't answer anything with "I don't know," or I would say if you decide to say something where you say I've never had that happen, but I
Yeah.
have had this happen before. Give an additional example where the interviewer can connect with you. So if you decide to answer a question and your answer is I've never had that happen, don't
Yes.
stop there. Say I've never had that happen, but I had this happen. If you don't mind explaining it this way, it's normally welcome. So I always just make sure you have an answer for every question,
Yeah.
and make sure. I always say this when I'm mock interviewing people. Make sure that if someone asks you a question with respect to an example, behavioral based question, for example, where the question is asking you to pull from your current or past experiences.
Yeah.
If the question is a behavioral based question and is asking you to do as such, please don't keep using examples from your most current role or like the role that you're currently in. Because there's no point of you listing all of these jobs on your resume if you're not going to be able to speak to a couple of them. So the whole having a resume is you being able to pull examples from every single job that you've had. So being able to know your resume off the back of your hand is important. And I've had hiring managers in the past say stuff like, "Oh, that person knows their resume." That's a standout person if you're able to pull examples like the back of your hands. Like I've had people say, like they'll use either like similar examples of the same examples from their current role that they're currently in, and I'll say, well, what's the point of having all these other jobs on here if you're not going to speak to those other jobs? So I would say to know your resume, absolutely know it like the back of your hand, and even if it's something that you don't think is an important example, it still may be good enough for the interviewer to connect with, and you being able to say, well, at this job, this would happen. Okay, so when I was here, this is what happened, and vice versa. So you're able to speak to everything. And then I think the last thing I would probably say is to make sure that when you are in your interview, there's a difference between answering the question and going into storytelling mode. Storytelling mode to pull the interviewer in. Like I always tell people, if you see the interviewer writing, right? If you see him writing or you see him typing, if you see him stop and go like this, they're intrigued, right? So if you get the interviewer to lean in and like get them to be like a part of your story, then you completely like you got them. So I always tell people,
So good.
give like the very meat and potatoes of a story that you're about to tell. And then if you say like the example I gave earlier with the two different interviews, and when I interviewed for a company where the interviewer was like, so what happened? Did it get hired? He got hired. Like, and so I answered the question. I took her through storytelling mode, and then she was like, so I'm glad that you spoke up. So did she get hired? Did she get interviewed again? Like she had more questions. She was so intrigued by that story that interview, the hour interview that was supposed to be an hour, lasted for like 38 minutes because she was like, oh my gosh, like that was great. So I would absolutely say intrigue your storyteller, intrigue them with like literally some of the examples I gave. I literally went like this, turned my chair, went like that, and it explained how a certain thing happened. Like I had a hiring manager who she was in an interview, and a candidate, every time the candidate spoke, she literally was like this. The more she spoke, the more she sunk. And I sat up in my chair to make sure I was sitting up before I sent her a chat, and I said, sit up, you are slouching. She looked at the chat, she grinned, and she sat right up. But the more the candidate spoke, the more she sunk. So when I was in my interview, I sunk so that the interviewer can in their mind of this is how I handle certain things as a recruiter. So it's okay to put yourself in that space of storytelling mode and actually like entertain the interviewer a little bit. If that's who you are, do it. So I would say those are maybe 3 points.
Whew. Oh Lord. Oh my God. Yes. I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be a 2-part series. I can't put this all in one video. This is gonna be a 2-part series. Oh man. To sum it up, we have now I gotta just say this. Y'all, if y'all really feel like which she has done, dropped some amazing gems, please put in the comment section below. Say thank you. Just say thank you to Chenae. Like I want you to say thank you letters to Chenae right now. Make sonnets to Chenae right now. Make erect statues if you want, because right now, this right here, like I'm telling you, I never really write down when I'm doing interviews. I'm always like, but I'm like, I'm taking it in, I'm writing things down because so like I'm like, man, I forgot I could go back to this later, but it's just like I'm so in the moment.
Well, let me give you something else to write down.
Oh Lord.
So the reason why I wrote a total. I started writing my templates in October, and since October, I've written 16 templates. Wow. All of those templates are based on kind of the hiring process of any company and kind of the steps that you should be look forward to whenever you're on your job search. And I did this to make the job search easier for candidates. So the first thing you do is you use the DM template. The DM template breaks the ice and it helps you learn how to network and what to say. You hit the DM template, you get your referral, and then the next step is the recruiter screen. Every company has a recruiter screen. And that recruiter screen, the screening with the recruiter, a lot of people kept asking me, well, how do I prepare for a recruiter screen? I was like, cool, I'll put it in a template. So I wrote out a recruiter screen template. From there, once the recruiter screen is done and you get referred to the hiring manager and you start preparing for interviews, I wrote a template for an interview prep. And this is what you look forward to in interview prep. From there, once you're in the interview, there is at the very end of the interview, you become the interviewer when the interviewers ask you, do you have any questions? At that point, you switch from the candidate to the interviewer. At that point, it is your turn now to ask very, very stern, sometimes uncomfortable, and intriguing questions that makes the interviewer think. So I have a list of 10 questions in my interview questions template that will literally make you look like a standout candidate. From there, candidates will say, okay, I've interviewed, but I haven't heard anything. Do you have something where I could send to the interviewing panel? Cool. I wrote a post interview email follow-up template that you can send to a hiring panel. Yeah. I've had to use it and get offers quickly. From there, once you actually get your offer, I wrote a salary negotiations template. So you can ask certain questions so you can then understand how salaries are broken down and how your packages are broken down. And so then there, I wrote for people who want promotions and don't know how to kind of like straddle the fence of, do I ask my manager? I don't really know how to address it. I wrote an immediate promotion template where people can use on the job and say, okay, this is a template that I can send to my manager based on the relationship that you have. Because I would word it differently based on the relationship that you have. But this is what I can send to my manager if I'm looking for a promotion. I also have a pivoter template, that kind of language that you can put in your professional summary or your career objective on your resume, and then language that you can put at the last 2 sentences of the first paragraph of your cover letter. So then from there, I wrote a cover letter template. I wrote a resume template based on how my resume is set out and how my cover letter is set out. I then from there, I asked my mom, I said, well, Mom, if you wanted to, how would you find another job if you wanted to find another job? Give me some thoughts on that. And she said, well, so my mom is a CNA. She said, well, if I wanted to find another job, I'm up in age now. I wouldn't even know where to begin. So I was like, cool. I said, then I thought age discrimination. Cool.
Mm.
I wrote a seasoned candidates template. And I called it seasoned candidates to one be safe because I didn't want to feel like I didn't want to feel like the recruiter cousin called me
Ageism.
old. I didn't want to feel like that. I was like, they seasoned. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna write a seasoned candidates template
Right.
where you can use this language to seek out a career coach so that they can help you and kind of handhold you a little bit throughout the process. And then I also wrote a a template on. I wrote so many of them. I hope I said them all, but I wrote
Wow.
16.
But you have them all in like a folder? Like they're all in one
They
folder?
are so they're on my there. I use a platform called Gumroad,
Okay.
and so they're on Gumroad. So
I know some people
so
that
if
can
you
use
go
that.
on, yeah, so if you go on my LinkedIn, there is my name, and then under it it says Durham, North Carolina. Under Durham, North Carolina, it says RC Job Seeker Templates. If you hit that hyperlink, my templates will pop up.
Man, I know a couple people that can use that. Man, oh, and I'm
And let me just say they do work because since October, I've helped. I think more at this point, I lost count, but I'm at more than 40 plus people
woo!
Have either gotten interviews or gotten offers.
Since October? It's like 10,
Mm-hmm.
10 people, 10 people per month. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wow. October. Yeah. Oh man, that's listen, y'all. She just gave you some gems, rubies, diamonds, and pearls. Y'all need to go right now and unlock the treasure chest that is on her LinkedIn. I put it in the description below. I'll make it even easier. I'm gonna put the link to the templates in the description as well. Y'all know what to do. Click, click, click. Go right now. I'm gonna put everything YouTube, everything that she has. I'm gonna put in the description as well. And we're gonna wrap it up with this one thing called the mindset, the brain here, right? So, what is man? You said a lot in regarding mindset. We went from imposter syndrome to like grit to like there's so many
Mm-hmm.
things. So, what would you sum up the mindset someone needs to have to be Chenae where you are and to scale from there?
You first have to very much accept who you are and like who you are first. Like it took me so long to get there. I was a person who was very much had FOMO quite a bit. Like I had very much FOMO with everything. I wanted to be included in everything from friendships to family. Like I wanted to be included all the time. And I felt like if I wasn't included, then I wasn't loved as much. And so I started to get to a point where I started liking my own company. And once I started liking my own company, I stopped caring if I was invited or not. So I would say to very much first like who you are. And once you like who you are, you'll understand what you'll tolerate and what you won't tolerate. And that's in your professional life, that's in your personal life. That's where it started for me. From there, I think what it takes is it takes a certain level of redirection. I understand that a lot of people don't like the word failure. So I'll say redirection. And it takes a moment to humble yourself to know that you don't know everything and learning from people who actually are ahead of you. So I'm very humble and I may be what I call myself a hard ass sometimes. I may be very much passionate about what I'm talking about, but I'm never above learning from people who know more information than me. And I'm never above saying that I was wrong and I deserve to be corrected. So I think if you have those values, then it won't be hard to start growing and start having people gravitate to some of the things that you believe in and have healthy disagreement. And it's okay because not everybody's going to disagree, but there is a certain level of respect that you have to demand so that you don't always walk through this life feeling like you are less than what God says you are.
Mm. You are. I am who he says I am.
Mm-hmm.
You have to know your value. You have to
Mm-hmm.
know your value because the one that created you with the value inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I know there's people that have laughed in this conversation. They may have cried. They definitely wrote down notes like I did. And they
Mm-hmm.
are definitely going to be applying this because this is so helpful to the community. If this has been helpful, I need you to got again. I'm serious. Write a letter of appreciation to Chenae. And in fact, you know what the biggest I think appreciation you could show her is actually taking the things she's saying and using it. I think that'll
Yeah.
be the greatest level of appreciation we can give. So if you can do
Mhm.
that, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, of course, but definitely do what she's saying to do. Those testimonies that she gets back from every person that uses a template that says, "Hey, I landed a job," that means the world to her. I know that
It
does.
does. It does. Like people
Yeah,
ask me, "How can I repay you?" I'm like, "Send me a testimony.
yeah,
I don't want your money. I need you to send me a testimony.
that's right.
I don't want like, oh, well, can I send you this?" I'm like, "No, I don't want no gifts. Send
Yeah.
me a testimony. That's a gift for me." Like
Hmm.
those put me to tears when I hear where some people were and then where they've come to. That's where I'm like, come on, God. Like, all right, God, come on, God.
Yeah.
So that's where I get my excitement from. So you send me those testimonies, and that is repayment enough for me.
On top of that, let me actually add to that. Put a recommendation on her LinkedIn page. Said,
Oh yeah, that too.
be like, Chenae did such a job. I recommend it highly. Put a bunch of those down there so that algorithm
Okay.
keeps pushing her out as well, because more people need to know about these templates. We need
Mhm.
40 to become 400, right? We need that
Absolutely.
number to be multiplied. So with that being
Absolutely.
said, this has been a whirlwind of joy and blessings here. I'm so glad to have Chenae on, and like I always like to say, till next time, I hope to see you on the other side. Take care, family.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Have a good one.